Welcome to Workstyle Stories, because life changes and every life is different and work needs to respect that. This week, we're talking about our emotional and psychological relationship with work itself, and how Workstyle can adapt to that and help shape it. And to talk about that, I'm joined by the lovely Alice. Hello, Alice. Welcome to
Hello,
Workstyle Stories.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Would you mind just telling us who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Alice and I'm a freelance content marketer. So I'm currently in Suffolk, but I usually travel nomadically. I'm just here for the duration of the pandemic.
Wow, okay. So you normally travel around, do you, and take your work with you?
Yeah, permanently. So for the last 3 years, I've been traveling with my laptop, working in different countries around the world. Started off in Asia and then worked my way through some of America and Mexico. And then I came back here. Yeah.
Amazing. That must have been fantastic, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about how you came to doing that. So presumably, so you say that you've been doing that for about 3 years. So
Mm.
what were you doing before that, and what was work like before you sort of chose to be nomadic?
Okay, so my work's always been a bit varied. I was trained as a microbiologist, and then I tried out lab work for a while, didn't work out. So I tried out becoming a public health specialist, and I
Right.
studied international development. So I was mainly working for not-for-profit, and I was working for food waste charities and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then, yeah.
And doing content stuff for those businesses, or like writing and that sort of thing?
It wasn't my main role, but I
Okay,
have been doing communications throughout my entire career. Yeah,
right.
I worked for the British Science Festival when I was a scientist, and I was a communications officer for a not for profit. So it
Okay,
has always repeated itself.
awesome. So what led to you kind of changing and going nomadic then, or were you doing that at the same time as doing this work?
So I was working for a not for profit, and I was very much grounded. And it's yeah, I suppose a lot of things led up to it, but it was mainly the stress and
Yeah.
not enjoying myself and feeling. And I became quite sick. I was putting my health at
Yeah.
risk. So
Okay.
that's what led to it.
So the stress of the work made you sick, did it? The
It, it was
how
a
that?
it was the long hours, the high
Okay.
expectations, the pressure to perform and
Okay.
to squeeze all of my time and all of my
Yeah.
being into this job. So
Gosh, I can relate to that. I remember at the point of reaching burnout, I kind of felt similar to you, in that it kind of squeezed every last bit of me that I had. I
mm,
kind of had given to the work, and for me, I was working in a startup as well, which I imagine is similar to sort of not for profit, and maybe some of the organisations that you were working in, where
mm,
you feel acutely the pressures of the business,
mm.
and a responsibility to the what the business is trying to achieve. I think you probably feel that more than in a large organisation. Is that
Exactly. Yeah, I totally
similar?
agree. It was because a lot of my work was community based, and I felt this emotional contract. I built it up in my head, and I felt like I had to invest everything into this job. Um, but yeah, there was so much pressure to perform, and it just kept squeezing more and more time out of me, and I wasn't able to give my full self to the job or to
Yeah.
the community that I was working for. But I started to feel like if there was one day or one thing that went wrong, then it was completely the end of the world. And
Mm.
uh,
It's,
yeah.
yeah. It sounds like you're really passionate about the work itself.
Mm,
And that can often be the danger, can't it? That you do actually really love the work, and so there's a part of you that, because you're morally invested and you're enjoying what you're doing, that you do kind of do more, and you find it harder to say no, and then ultimately that can become too much. How much of that do you think happened with you? Like, how much was it of your own making versus the culture of the organization or of work at that time?
I think it was definitely a mix of both. It was I had an emotional contract that I built up in my head. I felt really invested in the job, and I didn't want to let anyone down, and I didn't want to let the community down. But at the same time, there was also this expectation that I would work longer hours, that I would make sure that the projects were completed on time, and even if stuff went wrong, because as you well know, sometimes life doesn't go the way that we planned, and often it wouldn't, and I felt like it was my responsibility, and there were a number of different reasons that I felt that.
I can totally relate to your story, and I'm sure that lots of people will. For me, I kind of reached a point where I was like, right, I need a new relationship with work because this is not working for me. Did you kind of reach a finite point where you decided, okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna become nomadic, take my work with me around the world? And what was was there a catalyst for that? And how has it been since you did that?
Well, after about 2 years of not having a holiday, I finally managed to get a week off, and I went to Turkey for a friend's wedding. And it was during that time where I suddenly just felt like I could relax, and I had the time to think about me and what I wanted, and what direction I wanted to take. So it was in that week I decided to just hand in my resignation, and that's when I decided to do a TEFL course, which would just get me out of England, get me away, and so I moved to South Korea. That was it.
Brilliant. So it was kind of more a case of knowing that you needed to change rather than necessarily knowing what you wanted to do. And so kind of make an intervention, teach English as a foreign language, and then see where that takes you from there. And so what's it like now? So obviously pandemic permitting, what's your kind of work style like?
Well, it took me a while to figure that out, and it took me about a year, and then but it gave me the chance to breathe and to allow myself to figure that out. So I'm a content marketer, so I write for businesses, and I get to write for businesses that align with my values. So I mainly pick vegan and sustainable companies. Cool. And so my work life is a lot more flexible. I choose the hours that I work. I don't necessarily work 9 to 5, although I do find I'm more productive in the mornings. And sometimes I'll work the weekends, but then like this morning, I took the morning off, and I have the freedom to do that.
Lovely. And what about your psychological or emotional relationship with work then now? How is that different?
I think we were talking about this before, weren't we? That I'm actually probably busier than I've ever been. I feel I have a lot of things on, and I get the chance to spend time on my own projects. I've got a crowdfunder that I'm about to launch on Friday for a new business. I've got an editorial website, and I write for clients and I write for myself. But it can be quite stressful and overwhelming, but it's my stress, and it's my project, and I feel totally fine about that. So I
completely know what you mean, and I think that sense of ownership for your own stress is so important to your ability to deal with it. You know, it's something that you've created, it's of your own making, and so it's much easier to process and resolve it, I think, when you have that control. And presumably more conscious awareness of it and of your work style kind of helps with that. Alice, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you. I can't believe we've come to the end of our time already, but thank you very much indeed. We've been Workstyle Stories. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.